Hi, all. A very warm welcome on this YouTube LinkedIn Live. I am Priyanka Changya, co founder HEN, and today I have a very special guest with me, Roshni Javed. What is the purpose of this live? The purpose of this live today is to talk about the founder's blind spot and what you are not tapping into yet. And this is brought to you by HEN. HEN stands for Her Entrepreneurial Network. It's your go to community for women entrepreneurs who inspire, inform, and support each other to scale up and grow their businesses. And today I have with me Roshni Javed. She is an executive life coach, a keynote speaker, a strategic consultant for L&D, and she has done amazing work through her venture Change Institutes International in impacting thousands of people and how they have transformed under Roshni's leadership. And this is what we are going to be learning from today, guys. So I am super excited to learn from Roshni today all about personal branding, leadership, and what are some of the little things that we can do to improve our presence in any room that we walk into. So a very warm and hearty welcome to you, Roshni.
Thank you so much, Priyanka, and thank you very much for this opportunity where I share this space with a wonderful woman like you, a
Thank you.
wonderful entrepreneur as you.
Thank you so much, Roshni. All right, Roshni, we heard all about your accomplishments, what you are doing, etc. But before I dive into the subject for today, why this subject and why it's so close to your heart?
Hmm, that's something so interesting and out of the box. Why this subject and why this subject? Let me look at that.
Yeah. Yes. And why it's so
And
close
why
to
is it so
your
close to my heart? Yes, I can recall my journey from moving as a professional and transitioning into an entrepreneur. I noticed that many of us at this part of the side or this side of the ocean, we underestimate the part of presence, the part and the power of being seen, the power of being heard, the power that presence is about being felt and not volume dynamics.
Wonderful, wonderful. Thank you so much for that, Roshni. So let's dive in, right? So, the blind spot. What do you mean by the founder's blind spot, and what are we not tapping into?
The biggest blind spot that I can mention today is themselves. The biggest blind spot is themselves.
Okay, why do you say?
Most of the most of us or most of the founders, we walk into an entrepreneurial journey with a tunnel vision. We
Okay.
are so unifocular in our approach.
Hmm.
The focus is on the what factor, what product, what service,
Hmm.
what pitch, what numbers.
Yeah.
But we rarely pause to build who, the who
Hmm.
factor. And the
Hmm.
who factor here is themselves.
Yeah.
Themselves as what? As culture carriers
Hmm.
and as emotional engines of the company.
Yes.
So we don't get burnout just because of numbers, work, experience, but also about that lack of keeping a watch on themselves or ourselves. So the
Hmm.
biggest blind spot is themselves.
And Roshni, I can't tell you what an important element you have brought out, right? Because when we are talking mostly about founders, entrepreneurship, the entire focus shifts toward the brand, the company, the what you are building. And you rightly said, what product, what service, right? The core is
The,
you.
well,
And the core is the founder, and that is something we should never ever forget, right? So, was there a
exactly.
personal moment you had when you had to confront your blind spot as a leader, and maybe that transformed you? Was there a journey like that?
Absolutely. I was no special.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, one of my biggest blind spots showed up in my leadership journey.
Okay.
Again, as I said, when I transitioned.
Hmm.
Yeah, I was so focused in delivering value, creating performance matrix, scaling up, showing up 200%. But one fine day,
Hmm.
you wouldn't believe it. I had this statement at a dinner of crucial
Mm-hmm.
conversation where
Mm-hmm.
one of my family members said, I respect your vision, but sometimes I don't feel seen.
Okay.
I related that line.
Hmm.
What if that was mentioned by a team member?
Hmm.
I respect your vision. I respect your expertise. I respect your experience.
Hmm.
But sometimes I don't feel seen. That moment shook me. I realized I was creating a culture of performance. I
Hmm.
realized I was creating a family with a vision, with goals, being futuristic, but without creating a safe space
Hmm.
where they are seen, where they are heard. And that was one blind spot I addressed. Since then,
Wonderful.
I've become more intentional.
Hmm. That's wonderful, Roshni, and thank you for sharing that story. I'm sure as leaders, at some point or the other, we have come across certain areas where we do feel that, it's probably not the right direction or we have made a mistake, etc. Right? What are some of the top, if I were to ask you, could you list top three blind spots that you see in founders today and what they can do to overcome that?
If you are talking about in terms of likability, or you are talking about directly three blind spots where founders really need to consider.
Yeah, so let's talk about interactions, right? Hen is a networking community. We meet so many new people day in and day out. So let's talk
Hmm.
about in terms of personal interaction, right? So, what are some of the blind spots we should be careful about?
Well, the first blind spot that I would look at is without direction, drive without direction.
Okay.
So we are just rushing. We are
Mm-hmm.
rushing. And it's so important for us to stop, think, and understand you are fast, but are you moving forward?
Mm-hmm.
This is the first one because we are working so hard, right? We work in our hustle culture, product, pitch, showing up in every aspect, but we fail to pause and think we are moving fast,
Mm-hmm.
but are we moving forward?
Hmm.
So, this is one aspect that I would definitely want to look at.
Okay. While you say
Second,
that, yeah, please go
yeah,
ahead. Please go ahead. No,
yeah,
please
yeah,
go ahead.
please, please, please.
No, no, no.
Let me hear you out. That's the whole point. The first thing is
Yeah.
about
So first point that you have raised is about moving forward, but intentional and with direction, right? That sums it.
Yeah, you need to have a direction, right? We are moving really forward. We are
Hmm.
moving, we are running fast,
Hmm.
but creating about mistaking drive for direction. That's the
Okay.
line. Mistaking drive for
Hmm.
direction. So it's
Wonderful.
important for me to slow down and understand, am I mistaking my drive? I remember in my real years, I was all fire as an entrepreneur.
Hmm.
And then this hit this question. I stumbled on this question and I asked myself, I'm moving fast. I work 24 bar 7,
Hmm.
but am I really moving ahead? And what
Hmm.
does that mean? It means as founders, we are carrying a business like a badge. We are carrying
Yeah.
businesses like a badge,
Hmm.
right? So it's so important to understand passion without clarity is equal to noise.
Very
So it's
powerful,
important,
very
yes,
thought provoking. Yes. All right. So I have
create,
drive with direction
yeah.
and
And
passion with
second,
clarity.
yeah, I would look at the next one is confusing visibility with
Hmm.
presence,
All right. Please elaborate,
right?
Roshni. Yeah.
Yeah. See, I knew at a time I need to be everywhere, speaking, networking, pitching, being visible on social media, over explaining, second guessing. Yes. But I asked myself, I hear you, but I don't feel your presence.
Hmm.
Why aren't things translating?
Hmm.
I reflected. I realized I hear your pitch. I don't feel your presence. This was an aha moment for me because
Wonderful.
we live in an age where volume dynamics is not a big thing.
Hmm.
It's not about how loudly you speak or how beautifully you speak.
Hmm.
It's about being felt.
Hmm.
It's about when people remember energy, not just words.
Hmm.
So confusing visibility with your presence.
Hmm.
And
Wonderful.
finally, the third, allow me to complete my third blind spot. It's
Hmm.
about building teams without building trust.
Okay.
Now, again and again, here, all of us, and I also meet so many business leaders,
Mm-hmm.
meet founders who are in this rat race of creating teams,
Hmm.
creating large teams. The
Hmm.
focus is on bragging about
The team size.
having and creating the team size, creating hierarchy, creating a reporting system. But when do we see how many of them share a safe space of emotional safety? There is no emotional disconnection.
Hmm.
How real relationships are. Because at the end of the day, vulnerability is not a weakness, it's being more humane,
Yeah.
right? So, building teams is not about team size, but it's about creating a safe space.
Wonderful.
And this is another blind spot I definitely look at.
Hmm. I think, Roshni, you have given us three very thought provoking statements. This live is not enough. Definitely, I would request everyone who's watching do go back and reflect. And if you have questions for Roshni, please put them in the chat because it'll require some amount of deep thinking as a founder, right? And very, it's not very often you come across nudges like these, right? So, but moving on, let's talk communication, right? What makes you build that instant likability or trust or create your presence, right? Because for me, I think that was the most important thing where you said visibility versus presence. It's very, very important to understand in today's world where there are so many opportunities. You're not limited by geographies. We are on Zoom call, like we are connected through different cities right now, different continents, right? So how do you build that presence wherever you go? Any tips, suggestions?
So here are we talking about about communication and instant likability?
Yes, definitely.
Great. Now, this is one of my favorite questions. In
Yes.
fact, in our recent event also, I had a
Mhm.
question that pop up. What do
Hmm.
you mean by this instant likability and how do you build it? So it's a great question. Now, here's the truth.
Hmm.
It's important for us to understand people respond to energy,
Hmm.
not just words.
Hmm.
Hence, instant likability comes down to three things.
Okay.
One, warmth over ego.
Okay.
We find many a time in room full of people, we are struggling hard to impress.
Hmm.
So the idea is let's not struggle. Let
Hmm.
us understand you're trying to connect, not to impress.
Hmm.
When you realize that you're trying to connect, your struggle stops. And then starts the swan effect.
Hmm.
That is effortless journey
Hmm.
because you are trying to connect. You're not trying to impress. Second is presence over perfection.
Hmm.
Don't rush to speak.
Hmm.
Don't shoot. Don't unintentionally or intentionally just come up with a no. You're fully there.
Hmm.
Your authority over expertise comes with confidence, and that confidence comes into presence. Third is listening over broadcasting. We struggle. There is a power struggle of audibility and voice dynamics in a room. Always. It's important to understand we are not at a room to dominate. We are reading it. We're
Hmm.
observing it. We are absorbing it. And
Hmm.
so, listening not just ears or voices, you listen intently. You're there.
Hmm.
So, intent listening while you're deeply involved into the conversation, not just broadcasting words, is very important. Let's not forget, non-verbal communication plays a very important role.
Yes.
The art of back and forth conversation is very important.
Hmm.
We are in times of social selling where we also find people responding in monosyllabic answers. Yes, no,
Hmm.
then who. It's very important for us to possess as great communicators the art of reinitiating it, the art of nudging, the art of regulating the back and forth conversation.
Hmm. Got it.
And this happens when we are grounded and
Hmm.
centered.
Hmm.
That's
Very
when
beautiful.
confidence deficit.
Roshni, you have simplified it and so beautifully put it together. Thank you so much for that. I am definitely going to work on these things and see what the results are for myself. On that note, what is one powerful, small but powerful shift a founder can make today to show up with more presence? Like we talked about communication and we talked about non-verbal communication, right? Anything else that you would like to add here?
Yes, as I often bring it to notice, here's a small shift with a massive cascading ripple effect, and
Hmm.
that is speak, don't shoot.
Okay. What does
And
that mean?
second, we meet people who
Hmm.
are more reactive in words.
Hmm.
They want to respond, not just respond, they want to come up with a reply. And the urgency of that reply shoots up the speed of the statement,
Hmm.
but it does not prove of authority or expertise.
Hmm.
It's important to understand, to speak, because when you speak with composure,
Hmm.
more grounded and centered, you show that you are available. You lean in to
Hmm.
actually mention that you're there.
Wonderful.
There is a consciousness of control over the conversation, consciousness of your responses, consciousness of the ripple effect that it would carry.
Correct.
So speak, don't shoot.
Wonderful. Very nice, Roshni. I think I'm taking away so many uh, things to reflect upon, and I'm sure everybody who's listening will do the same. It's My next question to you, Roshni, is that how do how do founders unknowingly kill the culture even before they hire the first five people? What are some of the grave mistakes? And the reason I'm asking you this is right because with the new generation coming in, there is a shift in the way work happens, right? And there is a gap, and the world is changing fast. They bring in a lot of skill set, but they come with a different value system, right? And you may have been running your company in a certain way, in a certain direction, everything said and done. But how do you accommodate for the new age? How do you accommodate for the changing world and the changing times? Any hints there?
I love this question. And I could go on and on and on. Thank you for coming up with this. Culture starts way before the team shows up.
Okay,
This is the first point.
okay.
Culture starts way before the team shows up. It starts with you. It
Hmm,
starts with the founder. It
hmm,
shows up how consistent or inconsistent a founder can be. Does a founder live in fear of freedom?
hmm,
It's so important also to understand, are you great at evolving and evolving first inwards to show up in reality outwards? When you talk about generations and market dynamics, market shifts, and product evolution, talent evolution, let me say or bring it to notice, it's important for us to understand, do we want to be dinosaurs of the current market? So, re navigating or circling back to the same question, culture starts way before the team shows up, it starts with you. And
hmm,
it's important to understand the team shadows your traits, your character, your leadership.
hmm,
They shadow every aspect of you. And that is carried from organization to organization. So it's very important that you should be clear what you stand for.
Hmm.
What are your boundaries as a leader?
Hmm.
What's the clarity that you have? Who you are? What values do you possess? And what values are you sending across where people or teams carry and shadow them on a default mode?
Hmm.
And this is what I would like to mention.
And I would like to take this moment, Roshni, because you mentioned this. This is coming from my own personal life. I started my corporate career straight out of college. I arrived first day at work wearing jeans, sneakers, and a backpack on my shoulders, right? And I still remember my first few leaders and how they groomed me, how they shaped me with gentle nudges, very kind, but they set the tone of for the organization. They were very clear in their communication and in every little aspect, right, of my initial years in the corporate world. I think that training still sails with me. You know, there's so many elements that have become a part of me just because I got the opportunity to learn from the best. And I totally resonate with what you are saying today, Roshni, because when you say, as leaders, your team is your shadow, I have felt it, and I see it that whatever I learned 20 years ago, that is the same way I am nurturing my team as well today, right? So I think leaders have this innate responsibility on their shoulders to create an atmosphere which is very nurturing, conducive, and a thriving atmosphere for their team members, so that not only in this role they grow in life together, right? So very well said. Thank you so much for that insight, Roshni.
Priyanka, it's very simple. Your habits will become the culture by default.
Yes.
This is a very powerful line if one really deep dives into it. So you consciously or unconsciously are selling so many aspects,
Hmm.
which becomes the culture by default.
Hmm. It has been such a wonderful conversation with you, Roshni, and seriously, I don't want to stop. But since you're such a phenomenal coach, I want you to describe your coaching style for our audience as to, in one word, what do you think your coaching style is?
Transform measurable,
What?
which
Kindly
is
repeat.
it's I call it transform measurable. That
Oh,
means transformational but measurable.
wonderful. All right, that's interesting. And what is one superpower every leader should build?
Self-awareness.
Okay, that's interesting. All right. And if our audience has to remember today, one thing from today's session, what would you want them to go back with?
Build your presence before you build your product.
Hmm. Well said, Roshni. Thank you so much. It has been really fun talking to you today. We wish you all the best, and it has been lovely to have you on this live today. And thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Priyanka. It was lovely responding to amazing competitive questions that allows us to reflect on.
Thank
It
you.
was
All
wonderful to
right.
be a part of this platform.
My pleasure. See you around. Bye bye. Have a good evening.
Thank you.